Welcome to Live at Actors Theater Los Angeles. My guest tonight is not only a talent agent, manager, and owner of Studio Talent Group. He's an amazing man that gives back to the community. I've been able to help him on some of his events for the Boys and Girls Club of America. We did the AIDS Walk last year, and the best part about it is he is a UCLA Bruin, which I also am a MFA graduate. It gives me great pride and pleasure to welcome my guest this evening, and also my manager, Mr. Phil Brock.
Hi. Good evening. Good to be here.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks. So,
and
yes,
I'm missing a UCLA basketball game right now to be here.
And
that is a huge sacrifice for me.
It is huge because anybody that follows Phil's Twitter or Facebook accounts, he doesn't miss a game. Yes. He's always down on the court, and football, basketball, yeah. So tell us a little bit about you were an actor, and I think you're always an actor. I mean, it's not like it's in your blood, but you made a transition to open your own talent agency, and
I went to the dark side.
You went to the dark side.
Yeah, there you go. So the quick elongated history. I'm a Santa Monica native, born and bred in LA. You mentioned UCLA.
Yeah.
I went to UCLA, played baseball there, was a double major, went to Loyola Marymount for grad school. My first career path, I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be a coach. So if you asked me my goal back when I was 18, it would have been to be coaching the UCLA football team right now instead of watching the games.
Yeah.
So I played baseball at UCLA, didn't go to the pros, didn't really want to. Decided there were other things I wanted to do in life, but taught inner city LA for a number of years. Moved on from there. My first acting gig had been when I was 12 at Miles Playhouse in Santa Monica. Oh, wow. And acted periodically, came back to acting full-time a little bit later, and was a series regular on some TV series, and did a number of movies, some theater, a little bit of everything, did a lot of training. And so I'm always a big believer in actors, has constantly training actors, has people who are constantly trying to better their craft. And a lot of times I'm frustrated these days because actors are all about improv.
Yeah.
But yet there are very few TV shows, unless you're on Saturday Night Live, that say when you come to the set, just improv today.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Throw away the script.
Yeah, yeah.
And that always frustrates me.
Yeah.
So I came off a TV series in the olden time year of 1993. Went from there. Took a year off, or most of a year, and went back to teaching. Was teaching at an inner city Los Angeles school, the poorest half mile of LA. We had one gang house on one side of the school, another gang house literally on the other side of the school, two doors off the campus. And so I used to go out to the street corners and reach in my kids' mouths and pull out the tin foils full of drugs that they were trying to sell on the corner. And got shot at only once at that school. Wow. So, but it was an AK. Wow. But a U.S. mailbox saved me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today.
And this prepared you to have those meetings with those producers.
It prepared me for actors.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
We're a crazy breed.
I was at Berendo Middle School in downtown L.A., and two of my 8th grade students, every day I would come into school and they'd say, Coach Brock, what are you making me an actor? What are you making me an actor? And in February of that year, one of the girls tried to commit suicide. She was 13, and Isabel tried to kill herself by drinking bleach. No, it didn't kill her.
Oh, thank God.
It just gave her the cleanest, whitest insides ever. But she was they shipped her down to Newport Beach for 3 months in rehab. And those 3 months in rehab, her mother was a Jehovah's Witness, father was an alcoholic, a different kind of religion. And because of that, neither of them would go down and visit her. So every Saturday morning, I would go to campus around 9 a.m., and fill up my car with her friends. And I would drive the hour to Newport Beach to visit with her, because I felt that you wouldn't want to kill yourself if you knew people loved you. So I did that for a couple of months, and she came back to school. And Naomi and Isabel, at the end of the school year, were still saying, Coach Brock, make me an actor, make me an actor. And I had been on The Young and Restless right then, and I had just come off, strangely enough, 2 music videos that year.
Really?
Weirdest thing, I've been a series regular on stuff. People asked me to do 2 music videos, and at that time, MTV and BET were thriving.
Wow.
It was music videos, and more people saw me in those 2 music videos than had seen me in my series.
Wow.
So at any rate, I took them one day to see my headshot photographer, who at the time said, I'm not going to give him free shots. Are you crazy? And I finally said, what can I do other than just pay you for them? What else can I do? He said, I'm going to start trying to manage some actors next month. If you're on vacation, you can pay me back by interning in my office. And that was where the transition started. It was totally random, totally accidental. It was because of trying to help 2 13-year-old girls. So that's the story. And we opened, I stayed there 6 months. I found out, A, he wasn't as ethical as I wanted someone to be. He was sleazy. Turned out he was really sleazy. And the reason he wanted me there was to manage actors for him and make sure they all got headshots through him. And so it was this whole thing. And then if he did headshots, his whole thing wasn't to do headshots, it was to try and get the girls to take their clothes off. And so it was this whole little thing going on. For the first couple of weeks, I'm a guy, I was like, yes. There are nude pictures of girls around the office. This is the most awesome thing ever. And about a month and a half in, I went, wait a minute, this girl came in to get headshots. She has a 3-year-old kid. You know, she needs to get, she moved down from Oregon to get work. And he's taking her money without any chance of her gaining any work. So I left, I was going to quit and go back to acting. And the actors that I had brought on board, my friends, said, you're getting me more auditions than we were getting with our other representatives. You've got to keep doing this. So as a result, that's how I opened my own company. It was totally accidental. Wasn't trying to do it. Would never have thought about going over to the dark side that way. And at the time, when I first started, I was by myself. I would do, at that time, breakdowns came in via envelope that was thrown on your doorstep at like 5 a.m., just like the newspaper.
Was Gary still running it back then?
Well, he started it. He's the guy who started. And at the same time, so you had thrown on your doorstep, and then when you finally got, if you managed to get commercials came in through a telex with an antenna on your roof and a machine that would spit out a commercial when it came out. And that's how things happened. Everything was done by fax or in person. When I was first working for this other guy, I would fill breakdowns in the morning, drive them myself to every studio in the afternoon, and then come back to the office around 4:30 and pray for phone calls. And the first real episodic booking that I thought I had, one of my actors got a potential job, a 90210. He auditioned for it.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, we're talking the original one. Anyway.
There was an original one for you youngins.
90210. And he gets a call back, casting calls, Diane Young, calls to say, we want to book Justin. And I'm like, doing the dance of joy. And he was SAG eligible. And she hadn't realized that. And she said the famous words that I was hoping I would never hear, we will never call him in again, and we won't hire him now. Don't ever submit him to us. So I lost my first booking. I was mortified. And it was an interesting transition because the same as you know, a lot of casting people. Well, I had been going to all these casting people for years, and the first year I went to the college showcases, the league showcases, and I walked in, and I remember Barbara Miller, who was the head of casting at Warner Brothers at the time, Shine, is that Phil Brock the actor, Phil Brock the manager? Which Phil Brock is this, you know?
Who am I dealing with?
Yeah, and you know, and after a while, it became just as rewarding as coaching football or baseball, as teaching,
Yeah.
and my middle career, which I didn't mention, had been in business. I ended up owning a chain of very high-end jewelry and contemporary gift stores around the world.
Wow.
For about 10 years. And then I also DJ'd, which you do, but I DJ'd at 106.7 KROQ FM, Pasadena, Los Angeles, the world famous K-Rock.
K-Rock.
So anyway, I did that for a number of years at nights when absolutely nobody listens to the radio in Los Angeles. The Brock is on the rock. But anyway,
That is awesome.
there's nothing funny about that.
Not at all.
Anyway, so my middle career was business, and it turned out that managing actors was that combination of coaching. Somebody books a role, it was like them scoring a touchdown or hitting a home run. Seeing someone do better each day was similar to teaching. And then you still put the business parts together too.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a fun career, and we're now 19 years in.
Wow.
And I'm still doing it, which is
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
So
And you survived the recession and a lot of,
well,
a
you
lot
know,
of
we've
agents-
survived stuff. What was interesting is I think the first year I did this, I figured, I'll be back. And the reason why our offices are where they are is my grandmother gave me an apartment to use as my office for free. That was her apartment house. And I wasn't going to spend rent, because if I spent rent, we'd be out of business.
Right.
And that's how I started. We tried to do it just low key. I remember when I hired my first person, you know, and then we started hiring more people, and you started getting a little bit bigger. And it was really interesting because the first couple of years you were sort of scared,
Yeah.
you know, and now I walk into a room and I'm like the dean of the room. And it's very interesting if you're able to stick with something, how that transition occurs. So I just, since you were doing my bio, I just finished a 2-year term as president of the Talent Managers Association of the United States. And then in my other life, I have another life. And the other life, I'm chair of the Recreation and Parks Commission for the city of Santa Monica. I'm president of the California Recreation and Parks Commission as well right now. And I've just been honored to join a national urban Parks Association through the president.
Wow. Wow.
So very nice.
Wow. You know, when you were talking about the coach aspect as far as the managing, that's, I think, what really drew me to, you and Studio Talent Group, but also it was interesting because I met Phil at my MFA showcase at UCLA, and I thought, okay, well, he saw me do a scene. It was comedic. He saw my taped monologue, which we had projected up on the screen. And I thought, okay, I'm in. And then still, even after that, I had to come and meet all the staff. I had to do 2 contrasting monologues. I sang for you. I think I probably tap danced. I was like, and I thought, okay, this guy is good, because I feel like a lot of times, in LA, people just see a pretty face and they, put him on their roster. They don't know, what the acting capabilities are. And it made me proud to be on your roster, because I figured, okay, if I jump through hoops, then everybody else did as well. And
No, that was only you.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the casting directors rely on the fact that when we send them someone that they can act.
Yeah.
I'm their screener.
Yeah.
And our reputation is good as if we send an actor into Modern Family 3 times, the fact that that actor went in more than once is fantastic. Because actors, you're sort of like a restaurant. Someone stops in once and hires you, or stops in once and eats at your restaurant, you'll go out of business. What you want is repeat business. And the mark of whether you're succeeding in the business is whether a casting director brings you back in. Do they remember you, like you, value your work, and bring you in again? And for us, our reputation is predicated on our actors. So if I carry an actor on my roster who sucks, and I just took him because, oh, yeah, hot guy or hot girl, and that's it, then there's no depth. And the bottom line has to be, how is your work? Can you do the job? Two things. Can you audition for the job? And the second, can you actually book the job? And those two things are paramount. And you know what? We don't want to carry 2,000 actors on a roster. We want to have actors we believe in. And the way to believe in that actor is to see them do their work. You know, if someone walks into our office and their work's great and we like their personality and we like them, then they have a chance.
Yeah.
And look, we can still fail. We fail every day, hundreds of times. The mark of that is, do you get up the next day and bounce back up and try again? Or do you just go, I failed, oh my God, I'll never get up again. And I want my actors to be people who will get up again. And I want our office staff to be people who get up again. Yeah. And I love the fact when I get casting directors, we had 2 last week, both for series regulars, where they were casting director requested.
Great.
And they weren't even in breakdowns, but they knew our actors, they had seen them before, and they brought them in again. Yeah. That, to me, that's the reputation. And for those agents who what's interesting is now, if I look back on how many managers and agents that I've passed now on longevity, it's not because we're necessarily better, but we take actors that we believe really, truly can work, and we'll go the mat for them when the times are tough. Yeah. And I'm very proud of the fact that I have a core of my actors who joined me in 1994 and 1995 who are still with me. And that, to me, either they may have either been really lazy or hopefully we did a good job for them. Yeah. And they also knew that we cared. We knew them. And to me, you know, I had an actor who's he's not with me now, but he quit for a few years because he had some heart problems. But that particular actor walked into his agent's office, and we shared this actor. And as he's walking up to the office, the agent passes by him in the parking lot here in the Valley. Agent sort of looks over and sort of quizzically like, hi, keeps walking. My actor was walking up to the office to meet him for his meeting. He had already been he'd been with him for a year. My actor called me in tears. My agent doesn't even know who in the hell I am. Wow. And that's the thing. It's so easy to be that little thumbnail, you know, these days, the postage stamp size thumbnail on a computer screen. Yeah. But there has to be that personality behind it. There has to be that depth. There has to be the part of someone where you know them, you see them, you feel them, you go, yes, we know this work. You know, and it's very different these days, especially in LA, where actors aren't doing theater every day, and you don't have the chance to see them. So yes, you can take someone and go, oh yeah, she's sort of cute, I'll just take her. Or you can really go, you know what? If you can't do a monologue, and I know monologues are extinct everywhere but my office, they are. Yeah. But here's the deal with monologues. Monologues give you the chance to know prepared material that you've had a month, 6 months, 10 years to work on. Yeah. It's your work. If you don't come in and can't do a great monologue, or say, I haven't done a monologue in years, I don't have a monologue. Well, I think every actor is supposed to have 3 monologues. And you should have them in your car. You should work on them once a week. You should have a comedic contemporary monologue. You should have a dramatic contemporary monologue. And I know this is sacrilege, but you should have a classical monologue. Yeah. And I don't think there's any substitute, even if you just say, I just want to be a film and TV actor. Well, if you talk to Jeff Greenberg, you talk to John Levy, you talk to some of the casting directors who have been around for many years, they value theater. Yeah. Because if you can't get on stage and hold 75 people, 200 people, 1,000 people in your trance, where you don't have a chance to stop in the middle of the performance and say, oh, I need to do another take. You don't have that opportunity in theater. You've got to hit your mark. Yep. You've got to have those lines down every single time. Well, with a monologue, it's our way of seeing your prepared best work. And that's why we do it. The reason we still have you do a cold read is because I want to see, if you go in for a 5-liner at Jeff Greenberg's office, and Jeff looks at you and says, you know what? I want you to read for this guest star. Go outside and come back in a half an hour. If you can do it, you win.
Yeah.
If you can't, if you're stymied by that, if you walk out, by God, I have to take this much time to memorize this. You know, there's a couple of cold reading teachers in LA who teach you to memorize your cold read.
Yeah.
Death, don't memorize your cold read.
Yeah.
You know, and I won't mention names. Brian Reese sucks, has a cold reading teacher. He's terrible, but I'm not going to mention his name. But it's interesting, you teach memorization. Well, then what happens is you become very rigid in your delivery. And you need to adapt to whatever that reader's giving you, what that other person is doing.
Yeah.
And that is a huge function of us giving a cold read, of seeing what people can do. And if you're someone who grew up doing musical theater, we want to know that.
Right.
Because everything comes in handy. You're walking around with a tool bag. And as that carry the tool bag, you want to be able to pull out different tools. And yeah, maybe you only need a scale once every 7 weeks, you know, while you're building something. But damn it, you better have that scale in your tool bag.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
That was a very long-winded answer.
No, it was great. No, and you know, and that was another reason why I was really excited to work with you, because I had watched something that you'd told me that there was a YouTube video of you somewhere, and I was like, really? And I looked up, and you know, and you spoke to an acting class, much like this one this evening, and I just agreed with everything you said and the teachers you'd mentioned, and that's pretty much, you know, the format of my studio is pretty much in line with everything you're saying, because I feel like it's important for actors to have longevity. So we do work on, you know, Tennessee Williams and great works for the scene study purpose, you know, because everybody wants to be Daniel Day-Lewis. But
it's okay to be the supporting actor.
That's right.
In one of his plays.
That's right. Well, as a coach, you know, if you lift 50-pound weights, then 10's nothing, right? But then the next week we do everything you're talking about. Like, you have to be, you know, prepared with cold reading. And I know you and I are both a Margie Haber fan. And you know, I studied there with Courtney, and I would like to think that I pass on those her philosophy when I do my cold reading, you know, class here.
And she's sort of the successor to Michael Shirtleff.
Yeah,
and Michael was my cold reading teacher at one point.
Oh, wow.
So it was, I was someone who I resisted cold reading. It's like, I'm an actor. We don't need to learn that. I need to know how to act. And I would get call back. Nowadays, I would have been on Avails 100 times.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, I was pinned, and I wasn't booking as much as I'd like.
Yeah.
And Michael Shirtleff came to LA for a 10-week course that was more expensive. Moses would have not parted the Red Sea if he had known he was going to have to pay that much. It was crazy expensive. But I had just tested for a series. And the first time I tested, I was so freaked. I was so intimidated. I went into a boardroom, old-time test, where there's like 18 people in the boardroom. Wow. And they're staring at you. And you're like, oh my God, that's worth like $10,000 a week, and there's 18. That's $180,000. Which is nothing these days. But you're looking at that, going, oh my God. And I didn't think I performed as well as I should have. And you know, Michael Shirtleff came, and a whole bunch of my friends said, take his class. And I said, it's the same as Margie Haber. You know, it's expensive. My God, I don't need to do that. I can find somebody who's, you know, teaching down the street in their house. And I took Michael Shirtleff's class, and I booked 4 TV series the next 5 years. Wow. As a series regular. Wow. And it changed. I had 2 things that changed me. One was Michael Shirtleff, who, for you should know, the book Audition. And I think Margie's the successor. And then my scene study teacher became Roy London. And there's a great, if you don't know who Roy London was, he was sort of I guess what I'd call sort of a realism TV and film teacher. He was more of the NYPD Blue type. You don't need to have as much method. You don't need to be Chekhov, you don't need to be Stanislavski. Uta Hagen may be dead already. You just needed to know what would work for you for film and TV, and how, as things were becoming smaller, and there was less emoting, and there was less, it wasn't big anymore. How do you do that? And Roy was great. There's a great documentary, if you ever have a chance to rent it, okay, or find it on Netflix or somewhere, but there's a great documentary about Roy. And he had been an actor also, exceptional teacher. And I was in a master class toward the end with Gita Davis and Sharon Stone and people like that. And so the class was great. But I was lucky enough. I was able to do scene study and co-reading at the same time. Earlier, I had been in scene study classes, and I did the thing that I shout about people not to do these days.
What's that?
Which is improv. I was a Groundlings. I made the Sunday Company.
Wow.
I did a ton of improv, but I was financially lucky. It was never either or. And the problem with actors right now in LA is actors have decided improv is instantaneous gratification.
Yeah.
So they'll do improv, and then everyone looks and goes, why is this Irish chick who was sitting in my seat, why did she get work here? Why are those English actors working more?
In Australia.
Why are those Australian actors working?
They're taking over.
And it's not necessarily because they're better looking.
Right.
Although, no, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
but
gotta
no,
give it
no,
a try.
but you know, it's not that they're better looking. It's they've never done improv. And they've worked classical.
Yeah.
They've worked scene study. They've done the fundamentals of learning craft.
Yeah.
And a great story was, I heard from a New York casting director, Liz Lewis's office.
Oh, okay.
And she told me that one of the Australian actors who's really hot right now was up for a film, and that person came into her office. A whole bunch of American actors came in for the same role. As the American actors came in for the role, they had got their sides the day before. Some of the actors say, oh, I just started working on this about an hour ago. I don't really know what I'm doing. This Australian actor, who's become a star, had got the sides immediately, had worked on them 24 hours straight, just kept going, walked in and blew her away.
Wow.
And she cast him in his first major American role because she said he worked harder.
Yeah.
American actors weren't working. They felt, well, we're here, we don't have to really work at this stuff, come on now. Whereas Australian English actors, the auditions were fewer and farther between. So they treasured, it was a morsel.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was the first morsel they had to eat in a month.
Wow.
So they went,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah, yeah.
And that's a difference. And if you go over to England, last part of that was, I was in England a couple of years ago, and on the London stage, there were two actresses who were both names. One on one stage and one behind her in another theater. And both of those actors had just come off major movies. One girl was also an it girl because of the romance she was having with someone else. There was all this stuff going on. Neither of them needed to be on stage.
Wow.
In America, they wouldn't have been. In America, they would have been partying or doing a sex tape.
Yeah.
And which I would have watched. But in England, they were both doing stage in between movies. And the difference is palpable.
Yeah.
You know, and you can stories like that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, where people are just, they work over there. Our actors don't, not all, but a lot of our actors don't want to study. They're not doing the stuff they're supposed to do. And then they're not getting results. And they're 10 years in, they're still waitering, but they're not really acting. They're not doing the thing they're supposed to. They said that they wanted their career to be.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because about a week ago I did a workshop with Kendra Castleberry, you know, Castle, and I'd met
love
her.
her.
She's great, and I met her informally a couple of years ago at through a mutual friend, and I, you know, I'm always a little resistant about going to these casting director workshops just based on, you know, my own feelings about them. But it was great because she's out there in the thick of it, and the temperature has definitely changed. And she said that producers are not forgiving at all, and that you basically have to really own your job every single time you're around these people. You can't just take anything for granted. And she said, she's seen people get fired, after they've accepted a job. And so I thought it was interesting. She also said the difference between the levels of, co-star or guest star, series regular, is that people work harder and they dig harder, and they just, they find all the little details, and that's been
They're
told
not
to me.
superficial.
They're not superficial, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always so many layers that even in even in a co-star, there's when you have 2 lines, to me that's harder because you have to give the world of the character, the relationship, all the given circumstances, and you have like 2 lines to accomplish your goal. Whereas when you have pages, you have time, and so. It's interesting how what you're saying as far as American actors, and we have to dig deeper and
It's just
hold on to these
basically
jobs,
work. Well, but work hard, and don't just go. Well, if I go to acting class once a week for a couple of months,
Right.
I'm an actor.
Right.
I mean, these people in London are, the 2 actresses that were on stage. One was Keira Knightley, the other Sienna Miller.
Wow.
Keira Knightley at that point didn't need to be on stage that week.
Right.
She just didn't.
Yeah.
She'd already been doing movies. She's a successful actress. Sienna Miller, who I went to the play and I thought I was going to see just a total bomb.
Yeah.
Turns out she can act.
Wow.
She was really good at what she was doing. She had chops. And all I thought of her was she was the girlfriend. There was all this drama going on.
I remember. Yeah.
And she was getting rave reviews in London, and I said, "All right, I'll go see this play." It was actually an English play about World War II.
Wow.
And I go see this play, and she was marvelous. And neither of those actresses needed to be on stage in the West End in London right then, because they were just buying time for movies. And what I taught when I talked to actors in London, they're saying, "Well, look at." If we come off a movie, we're going to go to a play. What can we do to keep working? What else do we do? Do we do a web series? Do we do the play? What else? There's not that stigma of, oh, you're doing this. And American actors a lot of times get, for whatever reason, you guys get the stigma of, I can't do that. I can't do a grad film. I can't do a student film. I have an 11-year-old, and I'm going to take over for a minute.
Yeah, please do.
But we have a young actor just turned 11, and he just finished. He was on Jimmy Kimmel last week, and he just starred in a movie along with another young man, The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete. He got that movie because he did a short, a USC short named Polly, that won every film festival was in. It was under consideration for the 2012 Oscars.
Wow.
Okay, there's a short category for Oscars. He was under consideration for it, and the director, we sent Polly to the director and producers, and to casting, Betty May, casting, and that's how he was first considered for Inevitable Defeat.
Wow.
Very simple. He had done great work in one thing. We got them to see it, and then after that, they started going, "Oh, he's wonderful." He's on hold for a series regular right now in one series. He's on hold for a movie that films in mid-December. Disney just saw him for a general, and they're talking about a series that they want him to audition for in 2 weeks. And he just turned 11. So all you guys, you're way behind. You've got to beat my kid. But the point of that is he's also been working. When he was 9, he was at UCLA Film Camp.
Wow.
He was learning how to edit. I mean, this kid decided by the time he was 6 or 7, he wanted to be an actor. And his mother's one of our actresses. And his mother, since he could speak, every time he got an audition, he had to call us. He was required to call us himself and say thank you. And now his two little brothers are following in footsteps, and to have his 4-year-old brother call and talk to Lauren or Wendy or Kathy, and you hear, I can be in my office and you hear their voices melt.
Yeah.
Because here's this little kid saying, thank you, my audition went well. And you know what that does though? That should translate into adults.
Yeah.
That should be the same, whether it's a 4-year-old child or 11-year-old child or a 30-year-old, man or woman. That same joy, that same intangible, yes, I had an audition. Yes, I had a chance to perform. Where actors constantly look at auditions, and I did too.
Yeah.
Auditions were, oh my God, it's intimidating. And then I finally had the sea change in attitude. The shirt left gave me. Said, you want to be excited you have an audition. How long have you worked? How much money have you spent to get that audition? And now you're finally walking in there and you're intimidated, you're scared? Take your time. Own that room. You are their choice if you walk in and do a great job. You're going to make their job simple.
Yeah.
And you need to walk in, look at that room and go, wait, there's only like 30 of you? There's a janitor down the hall. Can you bring him in? I saw that secretary. Could she come in and watch me too? Because you're finally going to have that chance.
Yeah.
You're finally going to perform. And you should just look at that chance to perform and go, yes,
Yeah.
I've worked so hard to get in here. And now I'm in here. Instead of being nervous, you want to be excited. Instead of being intimidated, you want to be confident and go, I'm the reason you guys came to work today.
Yeah. And savor it.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. I mean, I'm told that, just even for a co-star, they get the little thumbprint pictures. There could be like 2,000, 3,000, for one role.
We estimate on the average for 5 lines in a TV show, 1,000 submissions in the first 2 hours.
Wow.
That's craziness. For a commercial,
Wow.
2,200 to 2,500 submissions per role.
Wow.
That's minimal.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
your odds as actors. 4-letter word, suck.
Yeah.
They
Not
really
so
do.
good.
But there are people who make it a career. We have an actor he's 84 years old.
Yeah.
And he's been acting now for 63 years, no other job.
Wow.
5 Emmy nominations, 5 Golden Globe nominations, 2 wins for each. No other job. Highest compliment you could get when you die as an actor, the highest compliment would be your epitaph just to read 5 words. I was a working actor. If you could say that, oh my God, did you win?
Yep.
Because that's what's so hard. To not have to waiter at P.F. Chang's, to not have to do anything else, not sell real estate, not sell stocks, not whatever it is the other job is. When he first joined us, 12, 13 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was, he wrote, we had the thing on the application that says outside employment.
Yeah.
None. Actor, at that time it was actor 50 years, I think.
Wow.
And that was so striking to me that a person could say, that's it. And we had our Christmas dinner that year at a neighborhood diner up the street from our office. We transformed this diner, Callahan's.
Oh, okay.
We transformed this diner into a full restaurant, candlelit, pine leaves, bows on every table, entertainment, the whole thing.
Yeah.
We had 150 people there.
Wow.
And I had our actor stand up for a minute. I said, how long have you been acting? He said, well, I think it was like 54 years or something. I said, what's your other job been? And he looked at me surprised. He said, none. I'm an actor. And then it was interesting, around the room, actors started raising their hand. 32 years, Phil. 14 years, Phil. 18 years. That is what I want my actors to be. when you ask why I audition actors, because I want them to be lifelong career actors. It doesn't mean they have to be a star. If you came to LA or you're from LA and you came here just to be a star, you need to leave. But if you decide this is your career path, then it's worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, what type of advice would you give to young actors or actors that are looking for representation? I mean, obviously you've been doing this a long time, and you have your knowledge as an actor as well. When they submit to you, and there's like the cover letter or the picture, the resume, what types of things like do you strike you right away?
Prayer.
A prayer?
I spent the afternoon yesterday with Monsignor Torgerson and Archbishop Gomez
St. Monica's.
at St. Monica's for their dedication. You were following my Facebook, and but it was interesting. I never saw that many people with miters on their head. They had the whole thing. I didn't know they fold them up all the time and this whole thing. But what was interesting is, part of this is prayer, whatever way you want to call it, but prayer and luck. For submission, what do I look at? I want to see great headshots. I want to see a good letter. I know some agents, some managers don't care about the letter. I read every letter. Literally, we read every letter. And I want to see if you have tape, a link. If I want to see your headshots. I want to see a resume. I want to see that it's professional, that it's good. And I want to have something in there that reaches me. Some reason to call you in other than, all right, maybe I need a new brunette today.
Right.
But I want to see something else. We'll go through about 700 submissions a month. And literally, it was probably high is about 850, low is probably 600 submissions a month in our office. That's craziness. And they're coming in every hour on email.
Wow.
And people are still doing snail mail. We got like 10 snail mail today. Mm-hmm. And those submissions are coming in. People we've turned down. Yeah. One of the guys that we had turned down, I think a couple of years ago, sent me a note today, sent me a new submission today. Said, Phil, I've changed. My work's better. Here's what I booked. Here's what I've been doing. And I told staff to call them in.
Cool.
We do that all the time. I've turned down people and then brought them back in later.
Yeah.
And I have an actor on my roster who booked a national commercial on Friday.
Great.
Thursday. And when he first came into my office, we called him in. Great, really interesting, character-y African-American guy. And I looked at him, and he walked in my office and said, God, I hope he's good, because, man, he'll book.
Yeah.
And he sucked. He couldn't cold read. Monologues were okay.
Yeah.
But he couldn't cold read. And I said, well, you're never going to book. And sometimes we are very nice. We just send people on their way.
Send them to my class.
Oh, there you go. But sometimes we just say, thank you. Yeah. It was very nice. And we do the standard stuff. And every once in a while, I turn into really Phil Brock. My staff had tried to get me to be the standard more. Yeah. And I looked at that person and I went, if you would take a cold reading class, you have a great look, but you can't act.
Yeah.
And you have to do this. And he said he left that day and hated me. And for the next 6 or 7 months, every audition he went to, he'd have a picture of me basically in front of his head, taunting him. And he wouldn't book, but he kept, coming back. Yeah. And I told him to go to Margie Haber.
Okay.
And 8 months later, he went to Margie Haber because he wasn't booking anything.
Yeah.
And he had this great look, big black guy, just really good look guy, great personality, interesting guy. And he did Margie, and one day he comes to my office, 10:30 in the morning, and just walks in. And staff, excuse me? What do you, because nowadays, anybody walks in an office unannounced, you're like, what's going on?
Yeah,
who are you?
Exactly.
Do we call security? Reach for the mace, guys.
Right.
Get that pepper spray out. And you're always a little bit worried now because it used to be people walked in offices. I got a TV series regular by walking into a casting director's office at Paramount.
Wow.
Just literally walking in, because there was no security back then. Now, everyone's a little bit wary.
Yeah.
You know, what crazy actor is going to walk in and shoot you? And which is why I keep my office in the back. I figure they have to shoot 3 or 4 people before they get to me. But okay, but no, but that actor walked back in at 10:30 in the morning and said, "I want to read for Phil again." I read for him like 8 or 9 months ago. He turned me down. Well, I want to show him I can do this. And what was really interesting is he, as an actor, you know, normally we would send him on his way, and I happened to hear the conversation and walked out. Because my lead at the time would say, "I'm sorry, you'd have to have an appointment. You know, we'll make an appointment for you, but you need to first send a letter to Mr. Brock and see if he'll see you."
Right.
And I walked out and said, "Fine, you think you can do this? Come in. Let's go." And he was 90% better.
90% is good.
Listen, you know, he still had a ways to go.
Yeah.
But I took him because of his guts. He
Yeah.
was willing to come back in.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, "For 6 months I hated you. And then I finally took that class and realized you were right. That you were just trying to help me."
Yeah.
And he's been my client now ever since. And he's gone through his own roller coaster, you know, like everyone does.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as an actor, he's good.
That's great.
He reoccurred on 3 TV shows in the last 2 years. He's done everything from Sons of Anarchy to a lot of other shows.
Wow.
And he's a good actor. And he's one break away from really being there, but he needs that series. He needs that great movie role.
Yeah.
And he'll get there. His attitude's changed.
Wow.
The attitude change used to be, when he first came to LA, he was driving the Humvee.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to be flashy.
Yeah,
I got to show that I'm doing it
Spend
now.
a lot of money on gas, right?
Yes, yes, he went broke.
Yeah.
And his audition stopped. Because if you're not in a good place,
Yeah.
if whatever karmic energy there is out there stops you from getting auditions,
Yeah.
you stop booking. It's the same as you turn down something. I had an actor, a really good actor of mine, who turned down a national tour. He auditioned for it, got the call back, he was booked on State Fair, and he was supposed to do a 6-month tour. And then he calls me and says, "I don't think I want to do it after all. You know, we've been doing really great with commercials and movies and TV shows. I'm going to take myself out of action from July through December." Well, that's stupid. So he turned it down. My actor had been booking every 2 weeks for years. He didn't book a thing the next 6 months.
Wow.
We were still working just as hard.
Yeah.
Whatever karma
Yeah.
came out and bit him in the ass and said, "That's it, you don't deserve to work."
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah, you know, it is interesting because I mean he put himself out there, he got the role, and I think the biggest lesson I've learned being out here in LA for about 14, 15 years is that everybody, you know, that CYA, everybody covers their own ass, and it's kind of like people want to give you an opportunity, but they will not give you the opportunity until they see that you're ready for the opportunity. And I've had, you know, connections that I've made earlier on that are finally, like this past year, thanks to you and getting me out there, like I've booked a lot, and I'm different though. I mean, I went through my graduate training, and I just think it's an industry that when you're ready, you know, things will happen for you. Like you know, you told that guy what he needed, and
I'm going to have a problem tomorrow. I have an actress who just finished a play in Long Beach, Michael Donovan casting.
Oh yeah.
And he just offered her a role, a 4-month role out of town. And it would be, I think, January through April. And my actress wrote me a note saying it's $800 a week or standard equity, and she wants to say no. Now she has a child,
Right.
which would be the reason to say no, but she said,
Yeah.
"Well, it's pilot season.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go away during pilot season." I can guarantee nothing's going to happen for her in pilot season.
Yeah.
Because I just know it's
karma.
happened before. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's going to turn this down. And as an actor, your choice shouldn't be just how big the job is. It should be that chance that you really get to work.
Yeah.
And working is the important thing.
Yeah, because you never know who's going to be in the audience or
Yeah.
what connection, you know. That's the other thing too. It's like a lot of the jobs that I've gotten are through connections and the, you know, the networking you make. Before we go to some questions from the actors, do you have any other pearls of wisdom you'd like to address?
Should I reach down and grab? I would say that, one of the things that I always preach is not only be a good actor, but be a good person and be someone who's willing to help others. If all of you are not involved in a charity, if you're not each and every one of you helping someone learn how to read or helping feed someone who needs help, that's a mistake. Because it's so easy to be a narcissistic actor. It's so easy to be the person who, you're a bar back and it's 2 in the morning and you reek of alcohol, but yet you didn't get to drink any, and you're just hoping you absorb some through osmosis. Well, that is something where as an actor, and you go home and you're just depressed. I'm not getting to act. I'm having to work in the bar.
Yeah.
And go out the next day and help teach a kid how to read. And you're going to realize how fortunate you are. Because actors, you became an actor, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you became an actor for the right reason, it's because you're following that age-old storytelling path. The Irish did. Everyone did in Europe where they didn't even keep written histories.
Yeah.
Actors were the teachers, were the people who had the history. They had the oral history of the world. And you're supposed to use that voice. You're supposed to be the one who's using that voice, who's using all that to lend your voice to helping causes, lend your voice to helping people, to do all that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think it's a mistake if you just get so involved with yourself and looking in the mirror every day and going, man, I'm pretty, that you forget about your obligation as an actor. Your obligation as an actor is to help others. And I think that should be something that every actor should do because it's enriching.
Yeah.
And and I'll go off that for a minute. It's not only helping others, but it's also being the best informed person you can be. Back in the dark ages of movies, Shelley Winters was an Academy Award-winning actress. And she said you can't be an actor unless you read the newspaper every day. Well, now nobody reads it. They go online and get it. Or whatever way you do it, I'm the person who still reads it.
Yeah.
Every morning. Have my coffee and sit there and read the paper. And you need to be someone who's conversant in the world. And you need to be someone who's affected by events that happen in the world, in other parts of the world each day. You can't be that person who just sits and lives in a bubble. It's about acting only. It's not about acting because acting is taking the environment around you and being able to use that. And you need to know the hurt that happens in the world. And you need to use that because that's what will make you a really good actor and a great date.
Hey.
Because if you're the actor who all they can do is talk about acting for 5 hours,
Yeah.
you are pretty damn boring.
Heck yeah.
If you can go off on a subject, never mention acting for 5 or 6 hours, and the restaurant's closing down around you, and you realize the lights are off and the waiters are standing there going like, will you please get the heck out of here? That's a different story.
Good. Yeah.
And that's what you
Yeah.
need. So actors need to be able to help others. Actors need to be able to lend their voice to causes, to lend their voice to help others. And they have, I think, a unique duty also to know what's going on in the world, know everything around you, because it really helps you. Read all the crap, the bad thing that happens in the world, as well as the glorious things,
Yeah.
because that's what you're trying to portray. You're trying to tell those stories. every once in a while, when you're not doing zombie apocalypse or Sharknado or whatever my actor just did,
Sharknado or something?
whatever it was, Shark something, huh? There was the one after that. One of my actors starred in the one right after that. And you know, every once in a while you want, after you've done the shower scene topless 18 times for a sleazy $100 a day movie.
Yeah.
Bryan does that a lot.
Gotta start
somewhere. And you know, every once in a while, when you finally get that work that allows people to think when they leave a theater, to think about their lives, to think about other people's lives, that's the reason you're supposed to become an actor.
Well, and you understand that because you are an actor and you were an actor, and that's kind of what I tell my students all the time, that to me, theater and television and film, it's cathartic. We embrace and we represent a soul, and whatever the circumstances are that person is going through, and somebody out there identifies with that, and you might be helping somebody get through a divorce. You know, you might be helping somebody deal with the loss of their child. You know, you never know what your work can do. But as an actor,
or a flying shark may have come
or a flying shark. You
There
never
you go.
know. And on that, let's get some questions from our audience here.
The first question is, what monologue do you like to see? Like, what is there a certain genre you like to see, or an author? Because I mean, I was auditioning for a play and I was looking for something and looking, and I'm just like,
Do you have a friend who writes? Have them write you something. Or find a TV series that went off the air after 3 episodes, but you saw this great monologue in it, right? And it's obscure. Nobody's ever seen it before. Don't. What am I going to say, Vanessa? Do Mean Girls. Ever. I literally will tweet and Facebook about it while you're still in my room. It comes up #1 on Google. It's heinous. It doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't teach you. It doesn't show your range. Find something that shows the range. Every single monologue should be like an EKG. All right, and if it flatlines, you're dead. So look at, my monologues, both my contemporary and dramatic monologues, which I believe are still in my car trunk. Literally, every time I get a new car, my old headshots, my folder, goes in my trunk. Seriously, it's habit. It's the same as everywhere you go as an actor, you always have your headshots. Yeah. And they're attached. They're not separate. They're not, I have one at home. Oh, I can't find my resume. Oh, I just have it on email. Because if you go into Bristol Farms or Gelson's or Whole Foods, the only 3 places you're allowed to shop as an actor, you're always dressed well, and you're always ready, and you always have your picture and resume within like 50 steps of you, because you never know where someone might find you. Now, back to your question. Monologues. I want you to find something that really you feel. Write it, have someone write one for you, or just find one. I used to have actors who came in, remember the Jack Nicholson monologue? Was it All the Good Men or whatever?
Oh, A Few Good Men.
Few Good Men. Oh, my God.
Handle this truth.
I remember after that was out, people would come in all the time doing that monologue. You're not going to beat Nicholson doing the damn monologue.
Yeah.
Why would you come in and do that? So find something that's obscure. If Meryl Streep did a great monologue, don't do it.
no.
Okay? You want to find something that identifies you uniquely. That nobody in the office, and never tell someone what the monologue is. Because automatically, and there are some monologues, if they come up it used to be, I can't stand the anal probe. That was the girl monologue for years in the 90s. You do that monologue?
No, our friend did.
Okay.
Our friend
All right.
gets the anal probe.
Oh, but I didn't sign up for the anal probe. And you do it like 10 different ways. And I would hear that once a week.
Oh, wow.
For at least 7 years, I heard that. Last year, I must have heard Mean Girls 18 times. Wow. To the point I literally would tweet about, Facebook about, and finally would start interrupting people and say, seriously, can you bring me a real monologue? I don't really have a monologue out of thin air for you, but what I can tell you is find something obscure, find something that's relevant, and find something that has range. Because what we're really trying to see, and what you want to work on as an actor, is range. That's all you're really trying to work on, okay? What was your second part of your question, Miss Houston?
I don't know if I'm supposed to ask this because it might be.
You may ask me anything.
Whatever, but how do you feel? What do you feel about FICOR, or how do you feel about that?
You can't ask me that.
I know.
Huh? I am. I may. It depends how much you pay me. You know what? FICOR is very valuable for some actors who really financially need it, okay? And it can be useful. I can tell you it's generally useful for 35 to 50-year-old men, and it helps them book more. I have a SAG after card and an equity card in my back pocket. I would prefer no actor ever go FICOR because it hurts the union. And for Little Caesars to pay $750, or Skechers, here's one, Skechers was paying $500 last week for a 3-year buyout. Now, yes, they're only going to use it for a month, probably because it's identifying shoes that they're not going to have out more than a month. But the fact that they believe they could get away with paying that is sad. Yeah. But listen, $500 is a week, 2 weeks worth of pay for some actors. So I understand the need. I would prefer most actors not do it. Now, if Bryan was FICOR, your teacher, if he was FICOR, he would probably book 20 commercials this year. Because casting directors don't care whether you're union or non-union, they just want you to be able to work. So we do have an actor who's FICOR who booked, I didn't ask, but we'll identify you in a minute. Okay. We have a Scarlet X, can you put that on her forehead? Okay. But look at the bottom line is I have an actor who did 37 commercials last year between union and non-union. Wow. For him, it works fabulously. But I would prefer that it not be used. It never helps for movies. It never helps for TV. It's only for commercials. And honestly, most of those commercials aren't making a lot of money. Okay? Yep. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you can always ask me more offline.
I will.
Okay. Next question. Any more questions?
Just got another question.
Yes, sir.
Thanks again for talking. And you had mentioned earlier, you had made reference to John Voight and his failure in an audition, referencing Casting Now. And
Casting By.
Casting By, excuse me, yes.
Documentary.
And there were casting directors back in that time period, 60s, 70s. That documentary would say that, casting directors like Marion Doherty and Lee Stallman would take a lot of risks with the actors that they would put in the projects that they were casting, and they would lament that these days there aren't as many risk-taking casting directors. It's
not risk-taking casting directors. It's risk-taking directors and producers.
Ah.
See, it's not really the casting director. Casting director's job is still to bring variety and to bring uniqueness to a role. But they're limited the same as actors are. Casting directors can be fired if they don't bring enough good people in, if they don't have enough good people, great people to go to producers. They're limited too. And their creativity is in the picking process off that 1,000 people per role. But Lynn Stallworth and Marion, after a while, had much more power to help really influence the movie. Now look, there are still directors and producers who have cast directors who do that, who really bring them uniqueness. Jeff Greenberg, since you mentioned we were talking about Modern Family in the last couple of days, Jeff Greenberg has done a great job in his shows, in Frasier, in all the different shows he's cast. He brings unique choices to them. But he's working with producers who will welcome his creativity. Not all do, and especially on the weekly, the episodics where there's co-star roles and basic roles, It's a factory. It's being churned so much faster than it used to be. You have to remember, back even when I started doing this, we actually put all of our headshots into envelopes, labeled them, put notes on them. I used to highlight the back of each resume. Our messenger took them at 1 o'clock. They were on the casting director's door by 5. The next day, the casting director's interns and assistants separated all those pictures into piles. The next day, the casting director looked through them and finally made the choices. In the meantime, we had a chance to pick up the phone a couple of times and pitch. It was a much more relaxed process on everyone's end. Now, if we're in my office, we expect that a movie's back within 45 minutes, an episodic a half an hour, commercials within 15 minutes to half an hour after they're given to us. It's speed, because if we don't have it in, another company does. And they're going to be higher up on the pole than we are. And that casting director has to turn, you used to intern at UDK?
Yeah.
And when Bryan interned at UDK, I know some of those auditions came out the same day.
Yeah.
An hour, I've had auditions come back to us from UDK an hour after we submitted. I remember we submitted something at 11:26, 12:31. The audition was back to us. That's crazy fast. You can't pick up and pitch. You don't get to interact with the cast director the same way. The cast director certainly doesn't get to interact with producers or directors the same way, because a lot of times now the producer's seeing everything on tape. They're not even in the room. And my prediction a couple of years ago, and I think it'll still come true, within 5 years, you'll never go in for a first call. That will only be taped and sent in. So it's going to be much more impersonal than it is now. A lot of Bryan's auditions have come because he met casting directors over the years. He developed relationships from interning, from doing all this other stuff, so they know him. They liked him. And that's a big thing. Right after we took Bryan as a client, we did the AIDS Walk LA. And to see Bryan walking down the street sweating, holding a sign, and people standing around him talking to him, and him meeting new people, that was a great thing, because that means people gravitate to that person. Casting directors don't have that power anymore. They really don't. But they still can fight for people that they really like. So part of that's still true. They still can fight. So you have to be the one they fight for. And that's a long process. You can't get discouraged. Did you have a second part to the question?
Sure. Well, now that, yes, based off what you said, so given the change in the industry, how would a young actor, or especially, or an actor who is unknown, how can they best navigate this new, this new industry, the new way that the industry has?
I think you help create your own content. Mm-hmm. I think it's, people say it's a golden age for television and cable. You still have tape?
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's stop 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This is going to stop.
No, I'm just asking. I thought I saw you gesture that it was over.
Perfect.
Okay, so look it. One of the things I would tell you is this. It still comes down to actors doing the work, and you really have so much more of a chance to do your own work. People didn't have cameras before. People didn't have a chance to do a web series or create a short or do a monologue or all those different things you can do now. You can be, if you're really active and you get a network of friends, you can create content every week, Gesundheit. You can create content constantly. That is something that's so unique and so cool in the industry. You can put up stuff on YouTube that you made yesterday by yourself. That's amazing. You can take 3 cameras, right? You can take 3 iPhones and create a 3-camera sitcom, can't you?
You're right.
So honestly, if you're creative and you really want to work hard, you can create content. If you're someone who's training well and you're in good master classes, that teacher's going to refer you too. I get referrals from a lot of teachers every day. Literally, we get referrals from great acting teachers constantly. I get referrals from casting directors. We saw an actor last Thursday No, last Wednesday and decided he wasn't right. He auditioned horribly in our office. The next day I get a referral though, a recommendation from a casting director who we work with a lot, who said, if you haven't seen him yet, we like this guy a lot. And I think I'm going to call him back in and see if he can audition better. Maybe I missed something. Maybe he was just nervous that day. You know, maybe there was more there. Because this casting director is a asshole. He is. He's tough. He's not one of the nice guys. For him, I don't get recommendations from him very often. I got a recommendation from him. That's pretty, to me, there must be something I'm missing about that actor. Train hard. Submit. Every time you are doing a play, every time you do a web series, every time you do something, you're sending out postcards, you're marketing yourself, because a large part of acting is being CEO of your own company. I can't tell you how important that is. You are the CEO of your company. If you hire a manager, the manager becomes COO. If you hire an agent, that agent becomes vice president of your corporation. You have an obligation to keep your employees happy. You have an obligation to turn out the best possible product you can. That's incredibly important. Elgritchi Incorporated. She has a manager, she has different agents, those are all employees of her company. But Elgritchi Incorporated has to become a better product every year. And I use this analogy all the time. How many of you brushed your teeth today? She didn't. No, don't make out with her. She didn't. Don't make out with her. Really, really grody teeth. Okay, so those two people you don't want to touch, but the other people, go for it. And every year when you buy toothpaste, what does Crest or Colgate or Aquafresh do? It's always what? New and improved, isn't it? It always has more sparkling things, right? It'll clean your teeth better, gets rid of the tartar. Next year, multiple orgasms with every 3-minute brush. It's amazing. The toothpaste is phenomenal. You have to be that toothpaste. You have to be that actor who is better every single year. And you know something? Cast directors will recognize it. If you're steady, if you keep coming at them nicely with postcards, with mailings, yes, casting workshops if you need to, whatever it is, you keep coming, and you get a good representative to believe in you, eventually good things will happen. Females, it's tough, much tougher than for guys. But guys don't always work as hard. You know, if you work really hard and you help create your own content, and you're training, and you're marketing yourself, and you're being a great CEO of your company, good things will happen. There's that connection. When Bryan Chester came to our boys and girls club meeting, all of our staff, most of our staff got to see him for almost an entire day. Even if he didn't say anything, but he was just working the whole time, which he was, that is something that sticks with our staff. And you really want your talent reps to like you. You want them to want to see you, because that's where the relationships come in. And this business is about relationships, even though we're on computers. Oh, I was going to mention, in answer to your previous question, have great headshots. Mediocre headshots won't help you. Headshots with dark backgrounds, headshots that are 3/4, things like that. Remember, you're putting your headshot on a thumbnail. It really needs to be a headshot that pops, that sings.
Sounds good.
That's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Phil Brock. Thank you very much.